It's 8:45 p.m. on the 14th of June 2018, and it's lovely and light outside and nice and warm as well. So it's time for a Cat's Whiskers podcast, and we're live. Hello and welcome to our first off-season podcast of 2018. My name is Jono Bullard, and with me to talk about all the comings and goings for Panthers and all the other big news in the Elite Ice Hockey League are Tina Taylor.
Hiya.
And Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Hiya.
Oi! Git.
Yeah, I think
I was going to say something else, but I started to choke, so that's all I could get out, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Bit like Manchester United. Well, we'll carry on.
Bye.
We're going to talk about all the comings and goings at Panthers, or the new imports, or the remainees, who's left, who's gone, who's staying. So we're going to go through all that first with some of your comments that you've sent to us via Twitter and questions as well. And then we're going to look at all the other things that have been going on in the Elite League, such as Ben O'Connor's KHL contract being cancelled, the fact that the Elite League will be down to 11 teams next season, and also the possibility of Liam Kirk being drafted in the NHL. But first, we are going to start with the Nottingham Panthers. And it's been a while since our last normal podcast, almost 2 months. So a lot has gone on since then. But we're going to start with the players who we definitely know are not coming back. And yeah, it's quite a list at the minute. And I think there's quite a lot of surprise at some of the names that are in there. But just to go through them, obviously David Clark has retired, which everybody knew. But Patrick Galbraith, Jan Sauvé, Zach Phillips, Evan Mosey, and the most recent one is Dan Spang will not be returning to the Nottingham Panthers next season. Now, guys, I think Evan Mosey is probably the one that's the biggest surprise out of all of them. But are there any others that came as a bit of a shock, Tina?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a new coach for starters, so you can expect a lot of new faces, I think. It looks like somebody sort of briefed him on the whole Brit situation, and he's sort of gathered in, the Brits we had, and he's made the most of that. I'll be honest, I'm not. I don't think I'm shocked at any of them. Maybe Evan Mosey, but yeah, not surprised that Jan Sauvé went. I think without the CHL carrot to dangle, I didn't expect him to stay, if I'm honest. Did ask him if he wanted to come on the podcast, but no response. Hey ho. So, and Galbraith, again, no CHL, no European competition. We've just got the domestic season to be dealing with. I don't think that would have been enough to justify 2 import netminders anyway from the get-go. And I quite like that Schoenematz has sort of said that, if he feels we need one later on, he'll go looking. But at the moment, he think he's happy with what we've got. So I think, for me, I'm not surprised too much. I mean, Mosey's obviously that's a bit of a blow, and Coach Rich wanted him in the plan, but obviously for some reason they've not been able to come to any arrangement. So it's a shame. It is a big shame, and I think we are going to miss him. But the silver lining to that, and I'm quite happy to be corrected if I've heard this wrong, is I don't think he can sign with another UK team for some reason, some sort of clause in the contract somewhere.
There's a clause if we wanted him back, which we did, he wouldn't be allowed to sign for another Elite League team if he wanted. Yeah,
which is a massive phew moment, because I dread to think how he could hurt us playing against us.
I mean, and Mosey, the club wanted him to stay. He's chosen to look elsewhere, which he has every right to do. I think a lot of the others, not really a surprise. I mean, I think Zach Phillips, He's obviously gone on to pastures new. Jan Sove, as Tina mentioned, is not really a shock without that CHL carrot. And Dan Spang, his degree had finished last season, so I think it was unlikely he was coming back. So it's not really much of a shock, to be honest, is it?
No, I think that's the biggest thing. It's disappointing to lose, for me, in particular, the likes of Mosey and Sove. I know Mosey didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, but we know what he can do. And I think under a new coach who clearly wanted him back as well, it would have been nice to give him to have him back for another year. I think, just a little word for Dan Spang took, in my eyes, a lot of unfair criticism from the Panthers fan base. This is a guy who was logging, like Sauvé last season, sort of 40 minutes plus a game. Top gentleman as well. So I wish him all the best. I hope we never see him play against us, because invariably they always come back to bite you in the bum. And like I say, we'll see what happens. Mosey's not been announced anywhere else yet, so I mean, it could be a short stint before he's back again. If he is back again, you would have thought he'd want to be playing somewhere where he could be, where Pete Russell, etc., can keep an eye on him based on where GB are going to be playing next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the imports that have been re-signed, just two so far. Michael Garnett, who was on a 2-year deal anyway due to his degree at Loughborough University. He'll be in the final year of that. And then Tim Billingsley also returning, the defenceman, after a pretty reasonable season last season, I think. So a lot of, I would say, not controversy, but there was certainly some negative connotations about Garnett returning. A lot of people feeling that he perhaps didn't have the best season last season. I felt he was excellent in the CHL. He did have a dip in the season, but I think a lot of that had to do with the defence in front of him rather than him himself. A lot of the goals that he conceded, he was just hung out to dry for a lot of them. So, your thoughts on Garnett coming back for a start?
Sorry, go on. No, you go.
Go, Tina. Ladies first.
Look who you're calling lady.
I'll go back to my gold bar.
Well, I've just finished my tea, so it's only fair I'll let you finish your dessert. Garnett coming back. I agree with you 100%, Jono. In the CHL, he was absolutely top draw, and we wouldn't have got where we did without his performances. I mean, yes, it's a whole team performance, but your goalie has got to be absolutely on it. And in the CHL, he was nothing short of fabulous. And it is a massive shame that not just him, not just his form nosedived. Everybody's form just nosedived in December. It was almost like we're out of the CHL, and it was such a low. It was like it was like a drugs come down, in the most spectacular fashion. And December was kind of rehab, I suppose, in one way or another. But I think it's good that that Rich he's put his confidence in the two goalies in the Nottingham Post. That is out there, and he said, yeah, I've got confidence in the goalies that we've got, and that is going to be encouraging for him, for Garnett and Gospel as well, obviously, if nothing else. But everything is a wait and see kind of thing. I mean, we've got no distractions. We have got a new coach, a new ethos, a new way of thinking on the ice. It's it's all new territory. It's all new ground, and I think that. I think with some consistency, I think Garnett has got an opportunity to get the form that he did in his CHL performances.
And there was a lot said about Michael Garnett's tweet when it was confirmed that he was coming back, that his tweet was probably having a bit of a dig at Corey Nielsen. Did you feel that way? Hello, Ant.
Is he still eating his gold bar?
You know what? We've been off for 2 months. That mute button.
Oh
You know what I was saying as well was gold, absolute pure gold.
What, like the chocolate bar you
Yes,
eating?
exactly.
Ba-dum-tish.
So I'm not going to be able to follow it up. So no. What was the question? Garnet. Oh
Yeah, the tweet. Do you think it was having a dig
Yeah.
at Corey Nielsen?
yeah. Well, I actually asked the question of you guys in our little WhatsApp group. Is like, the first time I read it, I certainly, read it that way as well. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt in that it's more a case of, I've obviously been told that I'm going to be number one this year by the coach, and you always want to have the backing of your management, regardless of what job you are in. So that's obviously going to be a positive for him. I just wanted to touch on the controversy, as you guys have mentioned, about the Garnet returning. It did make me chuckle a little bit, the reaction, because you see calls for players to be re-signed left, right, and centre. And I'm not going to mention any names because it's not really fair. But there was several players on that team last year that I wish I will never see again. Yet people were wanting them back left, right, and centre. Yet when you sign somebody with Garnett's pedigree, I mean, look, when we signed him last year, we were gobsmacked. Like, my God, this guy's a stud. And yeah, he finished the season on an 89% save percentage, which is not great at all. But we saw in this EIHL, I mean, you could say this for the rest of the team, you saw in the EIHL how good that man can be between the pipes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do as a genuine, number one goalie without having that sort of I'm playing one week and then I'm out the next week sort of where we were left towards the end of last season.
Okay, do you see any imports returning now from last year? Because I know a lot has been made of Luke Pither and Mike Vasquez. But do you see anyone coming back? I mean, Matthew Gagnon is another one that a lot of people would have said they'd like to see back.
I definitely don't see Gagnon coming back. I think Olsen and is it Hughes? I think and Doty as well. Yeah, I think the presence of those three, I think that nullifies, the need for Gagnon, if you will. If he's in the pipeline, I wouldn't be massively disappointed, but I can't see where he would fit now, if I'm honest.
I must admit, I would be very surprised if any of the imports from last year are now going to come back. I think they would have been announced by now if they were. So I think now it's going to be completely new imports, to be honest. But Ant, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, Jono. Would I be averse to seeing Pither and Vasquez back? Not at all, because when they were brought in, I know Vasquez picked up a couple of injuries and everything, but when they were brought in, they did almost take us to the final of the playoffs, and they definitely struck up a decent partnership as well. But if we can upgrade, and that's the key thing, we need to upgrade in all areas of our team, then no, there won't be. This sounds harsh, but they wouldn't be missed.
Well, I just want to touch on something that Paul actually said throughout last season. We'd already signed Lindhagen, and then it was announced that Mosey was coming back, and so the question was raised. What place does Lindhagen have, because he was Mosey's replacement in effect. So you've got these two utility players, but do you need them both? So now that we know that Mosey isn't coming back, does that now? And I'm not necessarily saying that I agree or disagree. If I'm saying yes or no, but it's more of a question that sort of popped into my head that I just want to say, get out loud. Now that we know Mosey isn't coming back, is there a need for somebody like Lindhagen or Lindhagen himself? Does that sort of strengthen his position?
Yeah, possibly, but again, I still think that if he was coming back, it would have been announced by now. I think. I mean, we're what
you would have thought so, but
yeah, we're in the middle of June.
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know what conversations are being had at the minute. So
our first pre-season game is less than 2 months away now.
Mm.
So I think if anyone was coming back, it would have been announced. To be honest, but Well, I guess we'll see as time goes on. Like I say, it's still.
When's the next season ticket deadline?
End of June.
End of this month, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll start seeing a couple of names announced in that sort of final week.
Oh, you're such a cynic.
Cage mode off.
Looking at the British re-signings, and all the British players from last season have been re-signed, with the exception, of course, of the retiring David Clark. One of those that was, well, most fans were desperate to come back was Brett Pelini. He was announced quite recently, and I think that was a huge relief for the whole fan base.
Yeah, let's not even pretend that anybody thinks that that's a bad idea, because especially with David Clark retiring, you look at the roles of the other British players, and you haven't really got any of them that have got the goal scoring potential and potency of David Clark. They've all got a role to play, but it's not that role. So getting Pelini, that's massive. That is absolutely huge. And, it's just fingers crossed that he doesn't get a better offer between now and the start of the season, because it's happened. A couple of seasons ago, it happened to us twice. We signed Theo Peckham, and I can't remember the other guy's name, Eric something or other, and both of them didn't come. And then we got Cam Jansen. I mean, I know it worked out well in the end, but I just, please, everybody who is a GM at a hockey team anywhere in the world, don't talk to Brett Pelini, because we want him.
Fair enough. It was a massive signing for us, and especially when you consider what has gone on elsewhere in the Elite League, with Belfast losing Jackson Whistle, he signed for Sheffield, the saga that's going on with Ben O'Connor that we'll talk about later. It was important that we got such a marquee Brit signing.
It was huge. I mean, it was probably the biggest signing of last season. That nationality card, it's like a joker almost. And what a player he turned out to be as well. And you look at the three main stars of that GB World Championships team. You've got Brett Pelini, Ben Bounds, and Ben O'Connor. Ben O'Connor gets a KHL offer, and we're like, okay, here we go. We're expecting it now, and then we announce it a week later that Pelini's back. I mean, wow. It was certainly unexpected. Did not expect it at all. But I'm very, very, very pleased that the Panthers have been able to tie him down to a longer term contract. No word on whether it's a 10-year deal or not.
I was going to say, yeah, not the 10 years that you were asking for relentlessly on Twitter then, Ant.
But, he's coming back. Looking at the other Brits, obviously Robert Lakovic, Stevie Lee, Sam Gospel, Ollie Betteridge, Robert Farmer, another important signing. Robert Farmer, of course, scoring that goal that sent Great Britain to Pool A of the World Championships. So they're big signings as well. But also the news this week that the under-23s, Jordan Kelsall, Josh Tetlow and Joe Hazeldine will also be returning. And Tina, I imagine you're pretty pleased about that.
I am absolutely over the moon. I mean, you sort of breezed over Sam Gospel there as well. I mean, Sam, given the role that, we sort of pimped him out all over the place because we couldn't get him enough game time with the 3-import netminder system. And
the Nottingham Lions were very grateful, I know that much.
Yeah. I'm sure they are, and you're very welcome. But I would really love to see him play more Panthers games this season. So
I think that is going to happen. I think
he's going to. I mean, 2 netminders, and Garnet cannot, with the best will in the world, play 60 league games and however many Challenge Cup and play anyway. But yeah, the 3 skating Brits. I mean, Josh Tetlow. How much lyrical did we wax about Josh Tetlow in last season's podcast? I mean, that he is everything you want in a British defenseman, isn't he? He's got potential, and he can skate. He can take care of himself. He doesn't get bullied off the puck. That's important, and giving him the full-time contract that's huge. Jordan Kelsall, what we saw of him was really encouraging. He knows where the net is. He knows, where he needs to be. And again, potential. It's that word again. He has got potential. I think the big thing with Kelsall is because of his size, he probably needs to work on his strength, in the coming years. But he's still growing, so I'm sure that's going to happen. And get him on a schedule with the rest of the Brit lads. I mean, I know some of them are already back in at M10 Fitness. Getting the off season training going, and then you come to Hazeldine as well. Another one with potential. I went up to that Manchester game, the cup game that was sort of a dead rubber in the end. But it was great to watch the three of them get regular minutes, and Tetlow was brilliant. Joe Hazeldine was paired up with Dan Spang, and it was he sort of benefited from the experience there. You could see him watching and learning. Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled, and I'm really happy that the Panthers are continuing to embrace this under-23 rule, because there were a few teams last season in the Elite League that didn't, and I was really disappointed to see that.
Kelsall and Tetlow both come back on full-time contracts, so there's no two-way for them. They'll be full-time Panthers and fighting for their spots. Hazeldine, who is only 17, don't forget, he will be on a two-way with the Telford Tigers, which I think is the right decision, that he gets ice time elsewhere and continues to learn, because I think that lad has the potential to be one of the top British defencemen in the future. But I think he's a very, very good player. But concentrating on Kelsall and Tetlow for the moment, I mean, it's a reward for both of them for the way they acquitted themselves last season, that they've now got full-time contracts.
Certainly. We were lucky enough to see how much Tetlow had grown in just a short space of time, with his performances at the back end of last season, and then
that is of course figuratively, not literally.
Yes, yes. And if he grows anymore, I'm not sure they'll be able to get him to come under the arch when they come out. He'll be taking inflatable panther with him, I think. But and Kelsall as well. That was a season-ending injury. For a lot of people, that would have been a season-ending injury, and just to show the heart and the determination to get back, to full fitness, and then sticking in a few goals when he was back at Swindon as well. So you've obviously seen a lot more of him, Jono. I mean, you waxed lyrical about him last season. You were very excited with his signing. I mean, is he a natural goal scorer? Can you see him being the next David Clark, if you like?
Kelsall, I don't think he's not a natural goal scorer, I don't think, but he's very good at setting up others. When he was at Okanagan, he played with a guy called Mike Power. Those two were just they had a telepathic understanding with each other. And Mike Power is the natural goal scorer, just scored so many goals. The vast majority of them assisted by Jordan Kelsall. I think Kelsall has the ability. He can find the net, but I think his biggest worth is as a setup guy. And I think he is very good at bringing other players into the play. So I think that's where his strength lies, to be honest.
I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, when we had Ollie first sort of started to get regular shifts and everything, his biggest drawback for me was his size. But you've seen how much he's grown in the last, and this is actually, physically, how much he's grown in the last couple of years. He's proper bulked up, and now he deservedly was part of that GB team. So, yeah, the future's bright, and maybe there's a few more. He's sort of on the back burner waiting to come in as well. It would be that would be ace.
I've seen a lot of junior hockey over the past 2 months. A lot, like over 100 games worth, and the depth and the talent pool out there is phenomenal. So, yeah, that's something to be incredibly encouraged about for the whole league. I'm not talking about just Panthers. There's so many good young players. So, it's really good. It's really encouraging, and hopefully there will be more to come through who will go on to bigger and better things, and especially with Great Britain now being in Pool A of the World Championships, we need that depth and we need that talent coming through. And I strongly believe it will do in the future. So it is very good to see that Hazeldine, Kelsall and Tetlow are all back with us. So finally, moving on to the new imports. So the new faces that coach Rich Chernomaz has brought in for the Nottingham Panthers. 5 new players so far. And we'll start with the defence. We've got Tommy Hughes. And also Dylan Olsen. The name might be familiar. Dylan Olsen's father, Darryl, played for the Nottingham Panthers in the 1996-97 season, winning a Benson Hedges Cup. I remember him very well. A very entertaining defenceman. And when we won, always used to skate around the ice and swing his stick above his head. He was an entertainer. Dylan Olsen comes to the Panthers with a great pedigree, having played over 120 games in the NHL. So, Dylan Olsen, that's a marquee signing. That's a statement of intent.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, the thing with defensemen is that you can't judge them by the points, because that's not what they're there to do. But he's got some serious experience. He's been around a fair few teams, and I mean, he played for the Blackhawks. I mean, we didn't get. It's not like he, shuffled down to the retirement home in Florida and just sort of, duked it out there for a bit in front of crowds that we get.
Made his NHL debut in Chicago in the 11-12
exactly.
season.
I mean, that is, that's pretty tidy. That's pretty tidy, and it wasn't just a smattering of a few games. He's got a couple of seasons worth of NHL experience.
Well, 28 games for the Blackhawks, and just looking at it, 88 games for the Florida Panthers. So,
he did go down to the retirement home at some point. Then.
Yeah. But even so, he's 27 years old. Still, he's just 27 years old. So it's not like we're getting, as we used to, where we get players with NHL experience, but they were coming to the twilight of their careers. This is a guy who should be in the peak of his career. Which, if we can, get the best out of him, all the benefit for us. Yeah, absolutely. Then we've got Tommy Hughes as well. He was announced recently, and he comes with a lot of AHL experience and 236 games in the American Hockey League. So again, another player coming with an immense amount of pedigree.
It is. It's exactly what the vast majority of the fan base were crying out for, isn't it? I mean, every year when you hear about new signings that are coming in, you look at their resume and what have you, and I can't remember which one of the two it was. Callum put a tweet out literally a few seconds after the announcement and said something along the lines of waiting for Panthers fans to check the history and then for it to go mental. And then
that was Olsen because obviously it referred to his dad who played for the Panthers. Yeah,
I mean it's looking good on paper, isn't it? With those two. We've got 2 studs there who you'd expect to be among the league's leading defensemen, and if they can bring on the Brits around them, in particular your Tetlows, it's a good start. Yeah, it's very, very good start. But like with everything, let's see what happens when they actually hit the ice and play together as a team.
I mean, the thing is as well, Tino, is Tommy Hughes, he's 26. As with Olsen, 6'2", it looks like Coach Chernomaz is building a big defensive unit when you consider you've got the likes of Tetlow in there and Tim Billingsley as well.
Yeah, I'm not shocked by that because having read the various interviews that Matt Davies has done with him in the Nottingham Post, I think this is the kind of team that he likes to see, he likes to coach, and he likes to have. So, I expected some fairly big units on the blue line.
Okay. Moving on to the forwards now, and we've had Justin Kovacs, who was not really much of a surprise since the Panthers mistakenly tweeted out that he was joining
Schrodinger's signing
a week before it was actually officially revealed. And then there was
Perhaps
Jacob.
The paper got stuck in the fax machine.
Well, that's true. Jacob Doty, who joins us from the Braehead clan, and then the most recent forward signing, who is John Rowe. But starting with Kovacs, of course, most people got to have a look at him before the signing was actually announced. But 26 years old, 5'11", and played a lot of time in the NCAA and the ECHL. 150 ECHL games, 129 games in the NCAA before playing for HK Nitra of Slovakia last season, where he got 6 plus 7 in 25 games. So probably looking sort of second, maybe third line type of player, would you think?
I mean, regardless of what line he signs on, I think he's going to be more of a setup man. I think he's up in the assists and he'll contribute with goals, but he's not. Just putting my Adam Reddish hat on at the moment. He's not the sniper we're looking for.
Yeah, up 16-17 for Quad City Mallards in the ECHL, 68 games, 20 goals, 40 assists. So almost a point a game at ECHL level. That's good going.
It's tidy. It's tidy, but yeah, I mean he's. We've got a guy who's going to supply, so we need to give him a guy who he's going to supply too.
Okay. And perhaps the most surprising signing of all was that of Jacob Doty. He, of course, spent last season with the Braehead clan, 16 plus 19 in 56 games for the clan, but also 157 penalty minutes. And this is probably the guy that may be a sort of replacement for Gagnon, even though he's a forward rather than a defenseman.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. But I think he was brought into Braehead last year as that in that enforcer role, but then he put up a few points. If he contributes a similar amount of points this season, I think he'd actually outscored a few of our forwards from last year. So he can hit. He plays the physical games. He can have those opposition defensemen, with one eye, keeping the one eye over the shoulder. And that's, I think, when we first signed Chernanaz, and I was hoping that's the sort of team that I want to see play. I want to see a hard hitting team, and we've certainly started in that basis. I think he'll do a job for us. I think he'll do a really good job for us.
I mean, looking at it, he's no mug. He's had 71 games in the AHL, 15 points, 6 goals, 9 assists in those 71 games. So, he's played at a decent level. And looking across social media when his signing was announced, there was a lot of Braehead fans who were quite sad to see him go. Yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of the Panthers fans who were disappointed with his signing, if you like, were just based it on that one fight where he got KO'd by Gagnon. But I'm sorry, I mean, how many people did Gagnon not KO last season when he fought him? I mean, the guy was an absolute beast. So don't base it on just one incident. Look at his overall production. Look at this disappointment, like you say, coming out of Braehead. Like I say, I think he could be a very, very good player and a really good steal for us this year.
Our final signing is John Rowe. It is spelt Rheault, but thanks to the wonderful Elite Prospects and their little thing that tells you how to pronounce the players' names, it's John Rowe. So,
well, to be fair, the Panthers also confirmed that it was pronounced Rowe, so just credit where it's due.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, but I didn't see that, so I'm crediting Elite Prospects because they do it for a lot of their players. Lots of players on there. Anyway, moving on. He also has NHL experience, 5 games with the Florida Panthers, but didn't score any points. But lots of experience in the AHL with 261 games, and also the DEL where he had 3 seasons with Adler Mannerheim. 138 games for 77 points. He spent last season with Klagenfurter AC in the EBEL, 47 games, 6 goals, 15 assists for 21 points. The 31-year-old comes from Arlington, Texas, and he's 5'10". And I think this is a signing that a lot of people got very excited about.
Yeah, I mean the one thing you can say he's got experience. He's got experience in a lot of different leagues. So coming to a new league is not going to faze him. You know, he's going to. I mean, I know every league is different, and you know, there's little nuances here and there that you know he may not have preempted, but. It's a tidy looking CV. Oh my word! Yeah, I'm interested by this signing. I can't say he's the signing that kind of really, you know, I'm really excited about. But I am interested by this signing, and I think that, you know, this. I think he's going to be. He's going to be important, I reckon. That's even without seeing him play. That's my prediction. I think he'll be important. Maybe not a prolific goal scorer, or you know, maybe he'll prove me wrong. But I think, yeah, I think his place on the Panthers team is probably going to be a little bit underestimated until he actually hits the ice.
Okay. So that is how the Panthers look at the moment. Some of the comments that you've been sending it to us on Twitter over the past 24 hours. And starting with Will Hobson at WillH1985 on Twitter. He says, most important signing is Olsen, a stay-at-home D-man with NHL experience, which is invaluable. I think we leaked too many unnecessary goals last term. Richard Bradley says, on paper it looks like we've had some good upgrades on what we had previously, and I'm happy with the returnees, especially Brett Pelini. I'd love to see Luke Pither get signed up, and I think Lindhagen would always do a good job for us. Good summer all round. Another one from Kenwin64, our old friend Kenwin Jones. He says, some great returnees and interesting newbies, but are you happy with the net mining situation? Was last year a blip for him, and so last season's early season form will be the norm, or will you endure a season-long 5-hole blues? Well, I think we've sort of answered that for you, Kenwin, because I think all of us have said we're quite happy to see Michael Garnett return. Another question. This comes from Richard Waitman, at Richard Waitman 1. He says, a question to put to your panel tonight. With the new signings already agreed and the returning squad we also have coming back, how do you see our style of play being for the forthcoming season? And do you think this year we'll have a plan B and C in games? So, Ant, you have a kick off with that one.
I think I've already touched on it, haven't I? Certainly, we look to be building a team very much in the mould of the team that Rich Jernan has said we were going to get. He said he likes to play a fast-paced physical game, and that seems to be the basis of the team that we've signed. By all accounts, Rowe is meant to be a bit rapid. I've just done a quick check on Elite Prospects and compared him to an ex-Panther, Rob Bellamy, and they have. Rowe is comparatively better stats in the AHL than Bellamy had, and Bellamy didn't turn out to be too bad, did he? I think we are in for an entertaining year this year. Whether it will lead to trophies at the end, it's far too early to say. Let's wait till see if we have a Christmas collapse first, shall we? Let's get it. Let's get it out there. Let's get Gypsy Boswell back on the line, and let's get this blooming Christmas curse gone forever, because I'm sick of it.
I'm with you. I think it's going to be a very hard-hitting, offensive style team, very entertaining. As for the plan B and C question, well, yeah, I hope so. I mean, Chernomaz comes to us with a hell of a lot of experience. I mean, he's a very experienced coach. So, I hope that he'd be able to change it up mid-game if things aren't going too well. So, yeah, I just think hard-hitting, offensively minded team. So, Tina?
Nothing further to add, Your Honour.
Fair enough. Okay. And then finally for the comments, this one comes from, where can I find it? It comes from Sam, at 46233 _ Sam. He says, I'm thinking nothing till I see them perform solid for the season. Fair enough. I think a lot of people can respect that actual comment. Moving on to the rest of the Elite League, and it was confirmed that the Elite League would be just 11 teams next season after Edinburgh Capitals were not granted a franchise to play in the Elite League for the 18-19 season. Murrayfield Racers were also turned down to replace the Edinburgh Capitals, and Hull Pirates also turned down the chance to move up to the Elite League from the EIHL as well, leaving just the 11 teams. And I know you've had a lot to say on the Edinburgh situation, so your thoughts on that?
It's sad. It is sad whenever you lose a team, and I really do feel for the fans that remain of the Edinburgh Capitals. However, you can't say that this hasn't been coming. There's been mismanagement from as long as I've known them. I think the last time the Capitals did anything of note, Doug Christensen was their manager, or their head coach. Sorry. So how long ago was that?
That's pre me. That's pre me being a Panthers fan, or indeed being a hockey fan. So. I'm about to. I think I'm about to enter my testimonial year. There's a thing.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I've commented on the rink numerous times in that I'd love to take a match to it and burn it down and rebuild it from scratch. But the worst thing about it though was the way it came about. I'm not going to use the pun, but it was a very naughty way that the racers tried to get in to the Elite League, and part of me, although I'm disappointed that we've gone down to 11 teams, part of me was happy that they did get turned down. It was nice that for once, for a lot of criticism the Elite League comes into, for once they actually banded round together and they said, you know what, you can't buy your way into the league like you have done. I'm also pleased that we've got the a straight league system as well. I know they're keeping the conferences just for whatever reason,
show.
But show, yes. Faux show. But it's nice to have the straight league format back again. And the most promising thing out of all of this was Hull's stance on the matter for me, because how many times in the past have a Hull team done exactly what other teams have done, in that they've failed time after time and then they've been liquidated and brought back as somebody new, whereas this time the management of the Pirates have gone, they've stated from day one they want to play Elite League hockey. They could have easily come up this year, but they would have come up and they would have struggled and they would have likely have lost fans, and then that would have put them in the same situation that would have been in before we lost the Stingrays. This year they've gone, you know what, there's plans with a new rink. We want to find out what's going on with there. If we can defer our application to join next year, that's what we're going to do. I think that was the most promising thing out of all of it for me.
Do you know what I'm most looking forward to this coming season? I am looking forward to an Ask TCW that doesn't have a question relating to the potential demise of the Edinburgh Capitals.
Yeah,
genuinely, you've no idea. I mean, I'm like you, Anne. I absolutely 100% feel for the fans, because they have been through so much in the past, decade and beyond. But that team needed to be euthanized, quite frankly, because it just wasn't working. And I'm just looking forward to not having to talk about it anymore. When they're ready, I'd love to see Elite League hockey back in Edinburgh, but they're just in no fit state to do it right now.
Just on the fact that it's 11 games, so obviously a 60-game season now, which means 30 home games. I've got to pay a lot of credit to the Panthers for the way they dealt with those 2 extra games under a lot of pressure from the fans when it was announced about what they was going to do. I think they chose the fairest option. We were getting 28 games. We've got 28 games on our season ticket, so I think to offer the extra 2 games at the pro rata rate for the season ticket, I think is absolutely fair enough.
Yeah, that's spot on.
It is. And for them to also mention that it wouldn't be games against our rivals as well. Because they could have quite easily gone, you know what, we're going to charge for the game at Christmas against Sheffield and the game on New Year's Eve, if there is one this year, against the Coventry Blaze. They could have easily have done that, and they've chosen not to.
They both sell out. Absolutely fair enough. So, next on the agenda is Ben O'Connor. Ben O'Connor became the first Elite League player to ever sign in the KHL when he signed for Barry's and Astana in the KHL, only for Astana to renege on that deal 2 weeks later when new management decided that they didn't want him, leaving O'Connor in a bit of limbo. I mean, that is absolutely gutting for him, because you've got a potentially good news story there. There's a guy who, through his performances in the World Championships, has managed to earn a KHL contract and then gets it cancelled due to new management. You can't feel anything but gutted for him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the shortest KHL contract in in British history, I would say. But that's it's not on. I mean, to be fair, if anybody knows about contracts that mean less than the napkin you wiped your mouth with after dinner, then it's British ice hockey players, isn't it? Really, let's face it. It's just, I mean, so he's got to be gutted, and I do feel for him, and that is absolutely genuine, 100%. That was a fabulous opportunity. He must have been absolutely a cock-a-hoop about it. He must have been so excited, all for it to just come crashing down again. And now, well, I mean, I'm imagining that if he's had sort of interest from a KHL team, that maybe isn't the only interest that he's had. So maybe he has got some other options to consider. But if not, I mean, I'm sure the Steelers would have him back in a heartbeat. So I don't think he'll be out of a job. That is for sure. No. But like you say, he did enough to get noticed by a KHL team. So surely somebody else has been sniffing around as well.
Yeah. I mean, Anne, what do you see happening to him?
I think he'll end up back at Sheffield initially, and then potentially with a clause that if a different or a higher classed league comes in for him, he's able to go.
Well, just invoke his 2 weeks notice. Come on.
Yeah, well, some hockey's better than no hockey. And obviously it's a paycheck coming in. I know he was compensated with the KHL deal. But it showed you what a good player he was when 12 other Elite League teams, on hearing the news that he'd signed in the KHL, were firstly, well done, it's fantastic that you've got the deal, and secondly, that makes Sheffield a lot weaker. So,
yeah, exactly.
He's a very, very good player, and he certainly should be playing at a higher level than what the Elite League can offer currently.
Yeah. Staying with that, because obviously the O'Connor leaving completely negated the Steelers' move for Jackson Whistle, who left Belfast to join the Steelers along with his brother, and that was announced earlier in May. Chris Lovell, our good friend from Belfast, has messaged us on Twitter, and he says, just a question for us. How would you feel if a departing player described their move to another Elite League team as climbing the ladder? Personally, for me, it proves they're a bleep, especially if they spent 12 months having rehab paid for. Now, I think he's obviously referring to the fact that Jackson Whistle was injured quite a few times in his 2 seasons with Belfast. Obviously had those injuries prayed for, but then signed for Sheffield and described it as climbing the ladder. I mean, it's a bit of a parting shot, isn't it?
That's a sting, isn't it? I didn't know about that. That's certainly a massive 2 fingers up to the Teal Army, isn't it? Oh dear, I wish I'd have known about that beforehand. I've genuinely missed that, but that's low. I have to say, and I tell you what, that's not going to be looked on favourably at all. We all know that the Belfast Giants fans have got long memories.
But it's not that. I mean, obviously there was a start of a real rivalry built up from the Spyro Freta nonsense last year, to the point where there was quite a lot of vitriol flying between the two teams. Now this is going to just add more fuel to the fire. So for the rest of us, this is great. This is fantastic to watch.
This is that Michael Jackson meme where he's eating the popcorn, isn't it?
It very much is. But I don't see how you can go from a team that constantly competes for the league to another team that constantly competes for the league and call it a step up, unless he's getting paid a bit more, quite a bit more. It's not a step up. If you were going, with no disrespect to the Edinburgh Capitals, if you were leaving Edinburgh to go to Sheffield, then yes, that is a step up. It's a massive step up.
Well, but you just asked Tyler Bescaruani, who has signed in Belfast after being in Edinburgh.
And
I bet he thinks that's a step up.
And you know what? To be honest, I think Belfast have got the better deal. I really do.
Okay, talking of Sheffield still, Liam Kirk, the 18-year-old starlet, has been in America at the NHL Combine, where he seems to have turned a few heads. Yeah, he seems to have turned a few heads, got very well noticed, and is odds on really to be the first British player to be drafted in the NHL for a generation. That's a real good news story as well.
They've mentioned him going as early as the 3rd round as well. I mean, that's incredible.
I think that would be a surprise, if I'm honest. But I think 4th or 5th round certainly isn't out of the realms of possibility.
I mean, he is a quality little player.
He's excellent. He's outstanding.
And yeah, absolutely fantastic. And hopefully this paves the way for a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's just wind it back a little bit here, chaps. I mean, it is fantastic news. It's great for Liam Kirk himself. It's great for British ice hockey. It's great press for the Sheffield Steelers. And yes, it may very well be the beginning of something, to enable more British players to get noticed. However, until we have a junior system that works and links up with the senior teams and has proper funding and all the rest of it, I mean, let's go.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you slightly here, because it's not having any detrimental effect on the talent that's out there. Because I think Kirk will be the first of a few that are coming through. I think Kieran Brown stands a very good chance of getting drafted. And I think Mason Bidoff also stands a very, very good chance of getting drafted, because they are both exceptional players who I would place in a very similar mould to Liam Kirk. As good as talented as. And if Liam Kirk can get drafted, I see no other reason why they can't either.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'll defer to your wisdom on the British young British players, because you've seen enough of them. One thing I would say is that they need to make sure they get noticed over here. They need to have a bit of a PR machine behind them, because the Steelers were absolutely, pushing every opportunity for PR with Liam Kirk, and you need somebody who can do that. Otherwise, it's all very well having the talent, and we've seen lots of players, go off and play in other countries after they've, got to college age and what have you, that going across to Canada and over to Scandinavia and such. But where are they? So I mean, you've got to have everything. You've got to have the whole the whole package. You've got to have the talent. You've got to have the structure. You've got to have the PR that can put you out there. It's all got to work. So I'm not trying to take away from any of this, because what Liam Kirk is doing is groundbreaking. He's gone out there and he's making a bit of history. He's getting noticed, and the GB team as well. I mean, that the GB senior men's team, what they've done, that's definitely helped. We for a change, we're seeing some good news stories about British ice hockey instead of Joe Grimaldi throwing a helmet at a combatant's face. It's brilliant. I really hope that it's just a constant on the up. Yeah. I really hope that British ice hockey can support everybody within that bubble. Everybody is good. I want everybody to come together and support those. Everybody. I want everybody to be given the best opportunity they can. I want more Liam Kirks.
Well, he was afforded a very good opportunity at Sheffield. They obviously saw the talent that they had, and they made him a part of that team. And that's
only,
why
only
he's
in the
attracted
second
the
half of the season, though. I mean, he
was
spent
still
a
a
lot
part
of
of the
time
team
on
in the first.
Yes, but he still spent a lot of time on the bench in the first part of the season. It was only when he started getting noticed, where it was after the Under-20 World Championships, where he absolutely tore it up for Great Britain, where he was the player of the tournament, and he was absolutely phenomenal, that he then started to get more and more ice time for Sheffield.
But then that's not necessarily a terrible thing all in all, because it afforded him the time to witness the games close up. He was obviously part of training. He was obviously part of Tomo's tactics and things like that. And I'm not talking about goalie running. So gave him first-hand experience of learning, as actually being part of it and training with those top-class players day in, day out. So yes, Sheffield do need to be commended, but obviously, then they're not the reason he's going to the NHL. The reason he's going to the NHL is because his family have put a lot into him. He's put a lot into it himself.
Oh, it's purely down to him. Yeah. He
deserves everything that's coming to him.
Yeah.
Very, very best of luck to him, even if he is a product of Sheffield.
No, regardless of that, he's a great lad. He handles himself very well. He's mature beyond his 18 years. He does deserve everything that's coming to him. He deserves it. He's an outstanding talent, and he deserves all the rewards that are coming his way. He's an exceptionally nice lad as well. So,
and I hope he's the poster boy for generations to come.
Yeah.
There's your example to follow, lads.
Well, the thing is, it puts someone out there. It makes it achievable, because there is someone has gone from here to there. It's achievable. It can be done.
Well, the one thing I will say is that the next Liam Kirk, he obviously needs to learn the rules of cricket, because according to Canadians and Americans, that's all we play over here.
Good place to leave it. Anything else to add, gents? I think you've got something.
Yes, the table. I've lost my computer's frozen, so I've lost all the details and everything. But the annual table hockey tournament that was first set up by Ian Dilly a fair few years ago, and I can't remember if I've mentioned it, but I won it twice. It's taking place. I think it's next weekend. I'm not going to try.
It's the 23rd. It's Saturday, the 23rd of July.
There we go. So it's next weekend at the Nottingham Legend Pub.
July.
Sorry.
June, even.
Yeah. I'm sure it's next week.
Did somebody get in their DeLorean there, Jono?
Been reading too much Ready Player One. So the table hockey tournament is Ian Daly set it up a few years ago. It is a fantastic day. It's a really good fun day to have. Steve Wright's taken the reins the last couple of years, and obviously the more teams they get in, the more money they are able to raise for cancer research. If you want to get more information, please do get in touch with the Nottingham Legend or Steve Wright himself on the Facebook. Not the Steve Wright from Radio 2. Hockey fans should know who Mr. Wright is, especially GB fans. It is a fantastic day, and Jono, I know you were on the receiving end of a beating from myself that first year. So yeah,
I blame the wife.
We will be competing there's a trophy on offer for the Richard Bullock Memorial Trophy. So yeah, it's a fantastic day. Get on down if you can.
Okay, great stuff. And I think we shall leave it there for this edition. Next week we will be having a special podcast that we're recording next week, which will be our Ultimate Panthers Elite League team from all 15 seasons of the Elite League, and all of us have chosen our Ultimate Panthers team from all those seasons. So listen out for that sometime next week. But until then, just want to say thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much to Tina Taylor,
TTFN,
and Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Latest potatoes.
We'll be back with another off-season podcast very soon, but until then, ta-da!